full name is Durwood Fincher, but some of you didn't this afternoon, and we brought you out here and told you that my name was Dr. Robert Payne and that I was conducting some survey. The only thing that we didn't tell you was that I was not going to make a lick of sense. Well, here's what we found. Hey, Chuck, you're from Athens, right?
That's right.
How long have you been in the business itself, in the industry?
I've been in business on my own for approximately 12 years.
Let me ask you this, with the overregulation of small businesses, which I think that it is, of course, which we have seen throughout, what do you mean in terms of that you might be able to send, that you might have in there with your particular business in fact, that we had in terms of that with overregulation?
Overregulation? Think a minute.
Well, I tell you what, let me, in terms of the federal government, a lot of people have said that they're just sick and tired of the head embedded in it, of course. With that to the notion, that was one of your thoughts on that.
Well, of course, we spend a good deal of time now with keeping up with all the regulations that we haven't had to in the past, which it's hard to recover that by charging. As competitive as it is with other plumbers, it's hard to charge enough extra to cover that, especially in the areas of OSHA regulations.
Oh, now, when you mention OSHA, I tell you that it, of course, with that to the notion, which most of the people have said was one of the problems in itself, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It is one of the problems, keeping up with all of their regulations and to keep up with them and to abide by them.
But do you think, from the federal government standpoint, that it, of course, with that to the fact that you see more or less of? Well, that's the key question, I think.
I think we see a lot more of it now, and I think they're heading that way.
I got you. All right, Winston, now you're all Austell, right?
Right.
And how long have you been in the business?
Approximately 10 years.
All right, nice and loud. What I wanted to ask you is this. What are your thoughts in terms of the overall economic impact, not only with OSHA, but certainly that in terms of that with so back in there with a notion of that with the overall industry itself in terms of plumbing, with industry?
Wait.
Okay.
Say that question.
The notion that we have in Atlanta with our office, it's a regional office. And from Atlanta, of course, with that to the notion of that is what we're going to be seeing in terms of the overregulation of small business. I'm just wondering that in terms of that, what from y'all standpoint, what it might be that we might be able to take back to Washington.
Shoot, I don't know that
If you had to say though with that, in other words, what's come to our attention is we had that it, of course, with it to the heights with some of the people that we talked with, and just wondered if that had made it down here to the southeast. That was more in the northeast that we had found that to be true, up around New York. You look like you don't know whether to laugh or wind your mind.
No, I'm kind of confused on what you're asking me, and I don't think I'm understanding all the words you're asking me.
Well, I tell you what, let me just skip over to the third one, because the first two we've already got answered anyway. What, in your own words, would be that it, of course, with that to the notion with that in Austell, make it bring it home a little bit.
What does nostrument mean?
Well, let's admit that, of course, with that to the start of that with a question, I guess, right? Say yes.
Yes.
Susanna, you're from where?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, and you will be the incoming president, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Let me ask you this. Congratulations first. Let me ask you this. What, in your words, would be some of the things you think the state organization with all that within, in terms of that with so back in that certainly with the nostrum and the industry itself, what can be done or is going to be done, you think, to overcome some of the volatility, not only with our economy, but an overall section with the dedication throughout that your organization is going to be able to conquer this year?
Well, I think you have to distinguish between our organization and the industry.
Well, then, of course, with
I'll do that.
Okay.
Because I think most of the industry is not involved with or concerned with or aware of our organization. I think that if there is going to be any control over the volatility of the economy or the market, so to speak, it's going to have to come from our organization. And our organization is going to have to become more it's going to have to become more visible, where other industry members are aware of it and are aware that it can have an impact on them.
That was good. What I believe what I hear you saying, and I know I do. So let's just comment that in terms of that so back in that certainly with the nostrum of that with what we have seen in Washington, do you set it out lightly mandated, of course, with it to the area that we might could see more of in terms of industry-wide, or is that just on a state-by-state basis?
I don't think I understood your question.
I'm not sure I understood that one either. I was thinking myself, why? But at any rate, let's go to number 3. Is that good? That way we could do one out of each on that. In your own words, because these, are mine, what is it, why did, in terms of that, which you hope to be able to bring the other, of course, with it to that in terms of the past, with this particular group?
With this particular group?
Yeah.
What would I like this particular group to do?
Well, not so much what you like for them to do, I guess, is really what I'm saying is, what did I make that in, of course, all of it, in that to back in there with that to the notion, specifically.
I still don't get the question. Now, start over.
No, I can't because we're out of time.
Oh, all right.
Dave, got you, Dave, I'll see you. Okay, we're talking with Wayne and Dave. Let me ask both of you this, and that is, this year with the association, of course, being the tangent that we have talked with several of the participants, and some of the reactions that we have found in terms of the overall economic revenue has been, of course, what they had said in terms of what we have been able to offer, not only from the federal level, but certainly as a statewide organization. What thoughts do we have on your part as to what can be done and is being done and that it is, of course, with that to the notion that we might be seeing more or less of throughout the state? Dave?
Well, speaking from the plumbers in Brunswick, the State Association has allowed us and given us the tools to pull our plumbers together in Glenn County, and we're in our first year of membership.
Maybe that, of course, with that to that first year, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. As far as the long-term planning goes in the State Association, I feel that continuing education, more interest in legislative activities, more one-on-one, and more activity on the local level is going to be beneficial to everyone.
Wade, if you admit that, of course, with that to the notion, I know he is, Dave is, of course, from Brunswick, but that, of course, with that to the same with the Griffin area?
What Dave's saying is applies to the Griffin area too. I'd like to see us take a stronger stance in the legislature, get some laws passed to benefit our constituents, our people, our plumbers.
Well, let me say this. I don't know if y'all know this. I don't even know if it's been announced yet, but it will be announced at tonight's banquet, and that is, I have been recently named Director of Communication, and one of my goals this year, actually one of my goals before this meeting is over, is to make sure that all of it, of course, with that to the notion of that, with not only the membership that we have now, but a Senate the way that in terms of that, with it to the church, would it be with something we might be well like to be with that too. Any thoughts on that? Hello? No, I was just.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can stop that.
I'm sorry, I lost my whole train of thought. Ask the question again, please.
We seem to have lost the group here. No, what you're saying was, that it, of course, with that to the notion that we have in Washington. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that it might, that then it, of course, with that to what we have been able to see, not only in this, but what I mean that it, of course, with it to the southeast area itself, I guess. Now, let's just get back together and see if we can make this thing work. Okay? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Then let me ask you this. With you being the state president and all, of course, with that, some of the responsibilities, what, in your own words, would you be able to set with that in terms of that with all the association this year for the membership?
Well, we've had a good year this year. We've worked hard and hadn't accomplished everything we hoped to.
Well, let me ask you this, though, and then, of course, with that from the federal government standpoint, which I know everybody out there will be able to say with confidence that they have that, of course, with that to the notion with that, with the responsibility, something that it may that white man be white. So what we have to offer in Washington. Keto.
I don't understand.
Well, You wanted me to rephrase that or what? Anything, right, at this point? Is it the first part or just basically the whole?
Just go over your question again. I didn't understand your question.
Okay, what is that? I meant that it, of course, with that to the nostrum that we have in Washington. I said I meant that, but I meant they didn't make, see, we more of it or not?
I don't understand, Diane.
And I think he just took the words right out of my mouth. Introduction, but Bob, let me ask you this. Being from Washington, I had eliminated it, of course, with that to the nostrum of that we had eliminated it, of course, with that to the nice of that throughout the industry. What are your, eliminated that with your thoughts on that?
Boy, you really are from Washington, aren't you?